Welcome to Harvest Talk, the podcast of Harvest Community Church in Goshen, Indiana. Harvest is a community church with a vision to change the world, and we do that by reaching people and building their lives. For more on Harvest Community Church, please check out our website, hccgoshen.org. And I am Pastor Jeremy, and it's an honor to spend some time with all of you today, and I'm especially excited to be joined by my amazing wife, Tiffanee. And so, Tiff, why don't you just say hello to everybody real quick?
Hello, everybody. I am just super excited to be here, and we're just looking forward to just sharing part of our lives with you today.
Absolutely. You know, we've started here at Harvest a series called Home Again, where we're taking the next few weeks to look at relationships, relationship dynamics. And kind of what happened was this was a result of a survey we sent out to our congregation, and just a bunch of feedback, a whole bunch of questions on relationships and those kind of things, family dynamics. And so we realized real quickly we weren't going to be able to tackle everything on Sunday mornings. And so we decided, you know what, why don't we take some time during the Harvest Talk podcast to kind of just talk about a few things that we can't get to on Sundays. But before we did that, we just kind of wanted to kick off today kind of casually, talking about just a little bit about our relationship, how we met, those kinds of things, and a few things that we've learned along the way. So Tiffanee, why don't you just kind of share a little bit with everybody, a little bit about, you know, us, our family, that kind of thing, just kind of the basics.
Sure. Just a quick background. Jeremy and I have been married for almost 18 years. We have 5 kids ranging in age from 2.5 to 13. We've got 3 girls, 2 boys. All 5 kids, very different personalities, very different likes. So it just creates just a super fun dynamic in our family and the activities that we pursue.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise, a lot of chaos at our house.
That is very true.
So we recently termed a term chaotic. There's hopefully some order in the chaos, but that's kind of how our dynamic is. And so why don't we talk a little bit about how we met? And of course, as always, you were incredibly impressed with me from the moment you met me, right?
Yes. Wink, wink. So we happened to both attend North Carolina State University in North Carolina. And both of us actually, our junior year, happened to switch our major, and we switched it to communications. And so our very first class, junior year, we took together, but that is not actually the class that we met in. It happened to be an 805 class. Both of us do like to take early classes, and we both actually like to sit in the front row. So Jeremy, being a pastor and our family sitting in the front row every Sunday, actually fits our personality well. And so the front row seats were already taken. Jeremy happened to be sitting in one of those, and I recognized Jeremy because he actually played in a Christian band at our university. So I thought, he's got to be a decent guy. I'm going to sit down behind him. And so from there, our professor put us in a group of 4, depending on where you were sitting. So it happened to be 2 guys and 2 girls, and we did not realize this, but we had to do a semester-long project together. So the 4 of us, and Jeremy and I being in that group, we're going to call stuck together in that group. Jeremy might not have always been the best group worker. We're going to leave it at that.
I'm smart enough on my own.
You can roll your eyes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that was that. And what some of you might not know is Tiffanee has a wonderful, unique way of spelling her first name. And so we had to exchange names. And so she told me, my name's Tiffanee. And so I started writing it down. And she said something about, you don't know how to spell my name. And I said, I know how to spell Tiffanee. And, I made a wonderful first impression when I discovered that her name had a unique spelling to it. Actually, kind of as a side note, is that study group was really interesting is one girl I think was pretty close to graduating or something. She went on.
She moved off to California.
Moved off to California at the end of the year. But the other guy is a buddy of ours, and we stayed good friends for a while. He actually got married 2 weeks before we did, and actually they moved into the apartment across the hall from us for our first couple of years of marriage. So it turned out to be a great experience. And so we were.
And just a side note, we did make an A in that group
We did make an A in that.
project.
Yeah, we did. Not with my effort at all. Clearly, her brains. So what happened was NC State's an engineering school, and humanities is a smaller department, and our major was even smaller. So there was only so many classes we could take. So we ended up, kind of by accident, being in pretty much every majors course together, and she was cute, so and so I finally, about a year later, after we've been taking courses together and been in these study groups together, got the courage that I kind of thought she was adorable. She used to come to class in these with a ponytail and a ribbon in her hair, or a ribbon or a ponytail pulled through her NC State baseball cap, and I always just caught my eye. So I decided that I would do the really bold thing and declare my everlasting love to her. And I did it in the good old-fashioned way, being a homeschooler and missing out on the junior high experiences. So what did I do?
So we did often sit together in class, and so I had to go turn in a piece of paper to our professor, and Jeremy ripped off a piece of notebook paper, wrote down pretty much which was a check yes or no, do you like me, but I'm not asking for a commitment kind of thing, and tucked that into my book bag.
Yep.
And so after class, it happened to be a big enough break to do lunch, and so sometimes a couple of us students would go and do lunch together. And I found it really odd that Jeremy did not want to do lunch with us that day. And then I found out why. When I went to go pull out my lunch card that the university would give you to pay for lunch, a note fell out. And funny story, I was not interested in Jeremy at all at the time, but God's plans are just way bigger. And so there was something inside of me that said, this is a unique letter, keep it.
Yep.
So I actually still
have
the note.
Yeah, I was absolutely terrified that we'd be at lunch and you discover the note together, and then any chance that I would have would have been utterly ruined in my multi-levels of embarrassment. And so Tiff kind of mentioned, she wasn't interested at the time, and we were kind of coming into our senior year at that point. That was actually, I believe, our senior year. Yeah. And so we kind of went through the rest of the year, graduated, and so kind of over the summer after that, we kind of kept in touch. We both got jobs, that kind of thing, and somewhere towards the end of that summer, I kind of started asking Tiffanee out, trying to figure out, could this go somewhere? And of course, she once again was absolutely swooned by me. And so kind of, why don't you tell us kind of the torture you put me through?
Sure, it is not torture.
Not now. I won.
So at any rate, we both did find jobs. We did stay in the area that our university was at. And actually, Jeremy continued to pursue me. Actually, the first day of my job, he actually sent me just simple flowers to congratulate me on my first job. He would do little things throughout the way. But I really did make Jeremy pursue me for a year and a half. I wasn't really sure yet what I wanted. I loved the job that I had. I wasn't sure if that was going to be a long-term job, if I was going to move away, if I was going to pursue something else. Through college, I at least learned that Jeremy was very serious and committed to whatever he put his mind to. And so I was not ready for that yet. And so, so a year and a half, he would just do nice little gestures throughout the way. He would leave me phone calls, emails, text messaging was not a thing.
Not a thing, no.
And so Jeremy says I tortured him probably because I would just vaguely respond, just enough to go, I don't want to shut the door because I'm not sure what I want yet, but not enough to go, yes, I am ready for you to start pursuing me.
Absolutely.
And so this is what I consider the first date.
Right.
is that after that year and a half, Jeremy had asked if we could go out to lunch. And I'm thinking, sure, we can do that. I fully took that as he was asking me out on a date. And so I did say, I will drive myself there and I will pick where we eat, and kind of let him know that if he had a ring with him, because again, Jeremy jumps all in, that if he was going to show up with a ring and propose to me, I was going to say no. So yeah, maybe I was a little bit full of myself, thinking that he would be ready to pop the question. But I picked one of my favorite little cafe areas. We had lunch. It was delightful. Mm-hmm. And if he had a ring, he kept that in his pocket the whole time.
I did not have a ring, and never really. The funny thing about all this was, this is still very early on. I was thinking of this as a lunch. We're just going to get together and have lunch. And she's all of a sudden, you can't propose to me. And I'm like, okay. A little bit of background. She was rooming with someone at the time who, I think on their second or third date, they'd only been dating 2 or 3 weeks. They got engaged. And I think there was part of that because her roommate was very serious about a lot of things, and she saw some of that seriousness and was like, and I was like, no, it's just lunch. And so still to this day, for me, I always thought the first date was after we were kind of official. We kind of said, no, this is a dating relationship. We're going somewhere. And so I always thought the first date was someplace else. And so still to this day, we kind of quibble back and forth on what the first date actually was.
Okay, funny story too. I clearly remember our first date. The first date that Jeremy's talking about, that we went to like a nice restaurant. I actually don't really remember that, so it doesn't count.
Oh man, so yeah, I remember both. But anyway, and talk a little bit, Tiffanee, you said, we both, I think, learned something during that year and a half where I was kind of pursuing, and there's some foundational things that we learned there about each other that's really been important for the rest of our lives. So what's something during that pursuit thing that you tell people that you like to know about that I'm serious about you, that, you've kind of said some things from time to time that, there's very little doubt about my intentions. And
sure, yeah, that's where I was going to head. Yes, during that year and a half, Jeremy did an amazing job of pursuing me, but it wasn't this too heavy of a pursuit where it scared me off, but he also didn't shy away. And this is important to know, I did give him plenty of hints. We joke about it that, I tortured Jeremy. I did give Jeremy plenty of hints that I wanted him to keep pursuing me, that I was moving slower in that than he was. Because I do think that that's clear. There can be times where a girl makes a very hard no, right, you're not the one, or don't pursue, and the guy needs to back off from that. I did give Jeremy. So yes, I feel very confident, and I tell people that I know that Jeremy is the one. I know that he is the one that pursued me. I know that God put that in him, and he just needed to be patient and wait on that timing. I have no question that Jeremy wanted me in that I did not have to go chasing after him. And I think honestly, it ended up being a very mutual.
Yes, very much so.
Mutual thing.
Yeah, no, and for me, it had to teach me. It was one of the first times in life where I had to work for something I wanted. It's not a braggadocious thing. It's just there are other things that kind of in life comes easily, and then you need to learn that if something that you really want, oftentimes you're the one that has to change. And there was a lot about me that needed to understand patience and learning her and figuring out what pace. And she said it right. I always knew the door was open. Like she was very clear that she never wanted me out of her life. And it was in such a way that this was not just let's hang out with a group kind of a way. There was always this open door to pursue something romantically. And honestly, for me, what it's actually the beauty of that from the get-go is my personality, like she's already said, is to jump in hard, all in. And Tiffanee Tiffanee takes a little longer to evaluate something. She jumps all in, but she evaluates it a little longer. And it's really been a source of wisdom for me, and as we've been married, that she can hit the stop sign for me, or even just the slow down sign for me in a way that I need to hear, and actually saves me from just jumping in all in a reckless way. And so that's kind of.
I think that I'm going to interject real quick. I think that year and a half also kind of taught both of us as well that the person that God is calling you to is not your pros and cons list.
Right.
It's not your resume. It's not just this list, this box. I hope you check it off. And so I really think that year and a half taught both of us kind of lessons in that area.
That's so good, yeah, because both of us kind of had that a little bit, and there was a lot that needed to change as we really realized that God was bringing us together, and that's so important. One question we did get asked in the survey was how involved our parents were during our dating and engagement process, and a couple of things just to recognize our time in life. We were a year out of college at least before we really started dating. We'd both been in a career for more than about a year by that time. We had roommates, but we lived on our own, bought cars. We were established adults when we really started dating. And so Tiffanee's family lived 4 hours away. My family lived a half an hour away. I went to the same church as my parents. But we had great relationships. We have great relationships with our parents. And so they were constantly involved. It was one of these things where it wasn't like there was some type of formal deal, but we were just constantly there with family. There was one point in time when Tiff's parents particularly sent me some questions over email, just asking about ministry and my future and those kind of things. We had a couple conversations with them, but it was just kind of an immersive process where we talked to our parents regularly.
I would agree with that. And I mean, again, Jeremy and I, since we were good friends in college, at graduation, my parents met him, although at that point in time, there wasn't any kind of romantic relationship going on. And so, in the phone conversations and keeping up with our parents, we just didn't hide anything.
Right.
Kind of, hey, this is what we're doing. This is where we think this is going. We were intentional about driving the 4 hours and Jeremy meeting my extended family and getting to know them. Again, Jeremy mentioned that his parents lived only 30 minutes away. We went to the same church as them. So many times on a Sunday after church, we would go have lunch and just hang out at his parents' house. He's the oldest of 4 siblings, so it was just fun. And then we would make the trip and visit his extended family. So again, it was just this easy, I feel like, conversation and easy to keep in the loop.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything to hide. We were excited.
Yeah, it was very natural. And then, I did sit down with my dad when I knew I was ready to ask her to marry me and talk with him through some things at that time. And then after that, I made the drive to her parents' place to ask for her hand in marriage from her family. It was kind of funny because right as I pulled into the neighborhood, I saw her dad driving out. He was on his way to, I think, a Bible study or something like that. So I had to sit on the front porch for 2 hours until he got back, and then he called her mom, and a few hours later, so I had to sit out front for a little while waiting on that. But it was great. And then actually, when we set up the engagement, all our families were all there for our, right after we got engaged, we went out to eat, and then we came back to her house, her parents' house, actually. My parents joined us. It was all part of, that's just kind of how it's worked. And something we value, we're far away from family now, and that was a very important time in our life. So Tiff, we got a few minutes left, kind of looking ahead. What is maybe one thing that you'd like to share with people about something that you've learned or we've learned that's been successful for our marriage so far, help our marriage be successful?
Sure. Well, this would exceed way over the 20-minute podcast that we're trying to aim for. But I do think one of the things that has been key, which is a little bit funny, is communications. And the reason I say that it's funny is because we're communication majors. Right. But we just kind of, I think, settled early on, and probably even in that dating and pursuit, that we were just going to communicate with each other and we were going to learn how to do it well. And so sometimes we say, I only need 5 minutes. Hey, let me communicate this. Or, hey, I'm going to need you to block out some time for this. And we'll go, hey, I've got something difficult that I want to share, or something uncomfortable or awkward. And that we just decided early on that, yeah, we were just going to communicate well, no matter kind of what that looked like or what emotions got brought up. And I think the flip side of that is learning how to listen well, not just going, okay, I'm going to give you this amount of time, just spill out whatever you want to spill out, but to listen well. And kind of what I mentioned this past Sunday in the message is seeing the other person's vantage point. Yeah. Let me really hear you out. And so I just think for the most part, communicating is easy for us and we just have fun with it. And it's just, I feel like, made marriage a lot smoother.
Yeah. And we kind of, especially early on, we erred on the side of it's better to over communicate and make an accident in how we communicate than it is to not communicate. And we've made plenty of accidents, both intentionally and unintentionally, and have had to learn, which kind of gets to the point I was going to share, which is, actually we got a question about input and counseling and that kind of stuff. And kind of the unique thing about me being a pastor and actually literally the month after we got married, it was incredibly part-time. It was mostly volunteer, but I've been on staff at a church somewhere. I mean, the person that did our pre-marriage prep was 20 feet away from me in an office in our little church complex. And so we've always had people around that have had expertise on marriage, expertise in parenting, and we've just chosen, in addition to communicating well, to making sure that our marriage is an open book to people that can provide insight and input. And we've done what we need to do to figure things out when we've gotten stuck, because every human relationship is going to hit sticking points. And I mean, even to this day, you've got a phone call once a month with someone that's a valuable mentor to you. I've got 2 or 3 guys that I call mentors for me on a regular basis. In addition to professional stuff, they check in on marriage and family and all of that. And so it's just something, seeking the right kind of help and putting your life in a place where asking those questions is easy is something we've learned a lot from as well.
Sure. And I think part of the key to that too is to get what I call your people that are going to feed into your life and that can tell you some of the hard things.
Right. These are people of consequences. These are not just people that are, quote, struggling along the way. These are people that when they tell us something, it's valuable, it's important, it has consequence. Their words have consequence in our life, and that's very, very important. All right, so we are gonna answer one question from the survey that was asked to us, and that was, what do you like most about being married?
Sure. Again, I could write books about what I like about being married to Jeremy. He's just a fun guy to be married to. For those of you that have had a chance to kind of get to know Jeremy, we're gonna call him a book nerd. So the guy likes to just dive into books and learn as much as he can. And so I think what I enjoy most is that he secretly has an adventurous side to him. So I enjoy a good book, but I would much rather be doing all the time and being spontaneous. So Jeremy, what I just enjoy is I'll come up with some pretty crazy ideas or adventures or things that I feel like our family needs to do. And again, Jeremy would like to have some planning for that. And I've already got the water bottles and the snack packed, so just come join me. So I think one of the things I just enjoy when we're thinking about kind of what do I enjoy daily through marriage is that Jeremy is willing to say yes to my adventures and let me be crazy and let the kids be crazy.
Yeah. That's funny. I was actually going to say that what I enjoy most is that the fact that Tiffanee actually draws the adventure out of me. Since the moment I got to know her, she's been the greatest adventure that I've ever had. And there've been times when she's had to follow me on some pretty crazy adventures. And so it's always been a part of that. And so it's always so awesome. If you do marriage the right way, and it's not that we're perfect, but we've learned a lot, God always draws you into an adventure that's greater with the two of you than if you were on our own. And I see that every single day with Tiffanee. So hey, listen, thank you so much for joining us on Harvest Talk. I'm going to pray for us, and then we will close out. Just a couple of things coming up this Sunday. We're going to be talking about communication together, getting into some more details and practicalities of that. And the next week at our podcast, we're going to be talking about how to find rhythm in a busy life. And so join us either Sunday at 9 and 10:45 or online. We live broadcast it and we post it later. Or you can then join us at Harvest Talk next week. So let me pray for us, and then we will close this out. So, Lord, I just do thank you for the marriages and the relationships that are out there. And Lord, just pray for a blessing that their right person is there, and whether they're married to them or they're pursuing them. And Lord, that you would give them grace to find and do it the right way. And the things that we've learned, you've blessed us with. I just ask that marriages and relationships out there would come into that blessing. And so we thank you for that. In your name we pray. Amen. So again, thank you so much for being with us on Harvest Talk. And until next time, I hope that you continue reaching people and building lives. Take care.